Hello, everyone. Welcome to a new CodeGrade webinar. This month, we have one on designing secure programming exams. And I'm also honored that we're joined by Marwan Rasamny from Delaware State University, but I'll introduce him more later. You will notice that if you are not in the US, the webinar is an hour earlier because of the winter time. So next month it will be again at the regularly scheduled time. For today, quickly I'll talk a bit about some recently released features and also what's coming up. And then I will give it over to Marwan, who will talk a bit about how Delaware State University uses CodeGrade and Lockdown Browser to give exams, coding exams. Then I'll recap a little bit about sort of an overview of exam workflows, and we'll also have plenty of time for Q&A. And it would also be great to hear how you are doing exams. At CodeGrade, we've released a couple of new features around exams, but we also noticed that many teachers have different workflows, different needs, which makes it difficult for us to build features around this. So any feedback you have is super useful, and that's why also it's great to have Marwan here, because he actually teaches with CodeGrade and exams. So he's the best teller of this information. Quickly, a couple of recently released features since the last webinar, which was mid-September. A couple of things we've done is around sort of the new UI in CodeGrade and the manual grading workflow. So one thing you will see now in the submissions list is that if you have a manual rubric, as you can see grading status, and then you will also see on the submission overview the ability to move to the next ungraded submission. Finally, one feature we'll highlight in this webinar, which is password protection on assignments. And we've also done quite a few minor improvements, bug fixes, and things like that. And we have the ability to import snippets from other courses now as well. So let me quickly show you a couple of these things. Right. So if I'm in a course, so first of all, if I go into a submission or into an assignment, you will see a new column here, grading status, and this will say graded if the manual rubric is filled in. And if I were to remove this and then submit it, what you will see is now it says grading needed. So at a glance, you can sort on that. You can see, oh, I need to grade this student, and let me make another ungraded student here. Just to remove this, submit. So now you see 2 grading needed, and then you also will still see a button next ungraded submission, and then we'll go to the next one. And this will basically go on until you have graded all. So let me just grade this one. Go to the next ungraded and grade that. And now you see it becomes disabled because there's no more ungraded submissions. So hopefully that will make the manual grading workflow a bit nicer. And then finally, what you will also see if you go back to the course home, so the assignment list here and course settings. And then under snippets, you can also import snippets now from another course. So if you use these snippets on the course level, you can import this. That's a quick overview of some of the new features. Then let me go ahead and share the slides again. All right. What's coming up? We're very close now into launching our context-aware AI assistant. So within CodeGrade currently, there's an AI assistant available. And what we've done now is we've made this context-aware. So this is basically the ability to give the AI assistant access to the code, the assignment description, those kind of things. And then it can answer questions like, is there anything wrong in my code? And it will sort of see the code of the student and then give feedback based on that. So we're finalizing that, and then we'll be able to beta launch this. So if you have interest in that, then we'd love to hear that, of course. We're also working on some minor Jupyter Notebook improvements around pausing cells and things, or stopping running of cells, things like that. And finally, another sort of minor improvement on the submissions list to improve the grading workflow. And that's sort of what we're currently working on. Our public roadmap is also available on codegrade.com/roadmap if you want to see what we've recently launched. And that's basically our change log. So then I would like to hand it over to Marwan. Marwan is chair at the Delaware State University, and he will basically walk you through how they use CodeGrade with Lockdown Browser to give exams. So let me stop sharing and then hand it over to you, Marwan.
Great, thank you, Yuri. Can you hear me?
I can.
Okay, great. Let me share my screen as well. Good. So you should be able to see my screen, correct?
Yeah, we can see the entire screen. Yeah.
Yep. Okay. Well, hello everyone, and thank you, Yuri, again. So as Yuri said, my name is Marwan Rasamny. I'm the chair of the Division of Physics, Engineering, Mathematics, and Computer Science. I tried to get him to remember that. He said, "No way, I'm not doing that." So. It's a lot of departments in there, but we've been I teach computer science. I teach a lot of the freshmen and some of the junior courses in the division, and we've been kind of on a journey to try to secure our coding assessments, and primarily because even pre-COVID, we had joined a platform that was an online coding platform, and it served our purposes for the assignments, but it was only Python based. That didn't have many of the languages that we teach in the division. And the other thing is the faculty member, I believe Cam Kong is on the call today. He had a lot of effort in trying to work with that company to try to secure the assessment and lockdown, and that was not possible. So he was adamant on trying to secure his coding exams, and so he ended up finding CodeGrade. I don't know the exact story, but so there we are. So several years ago, we started this process. What I'm going to describe to you today is several iterations of trying to secure our exams. We know this works because certainly our exam grades in the coding part of that went down in terms of the averages and the number of students completing those. So I'll talk a little bit more about that. So our big challenge was, even in person, was trying to secure the coding section of our exams because students were able to access, before AIs, they were able to access Chegg. And so what we found, after COVID, our juniors and seniors had significant coding weaknesses. It was really bad. It was a really bad situation, and we needed to find a solution to this problem. And so this is, where we kind of came down to trying to use the Lockdown Browser. And Cam, who's again on the call, was significant in working with CodeGrade to try to get at least the lockdown portion working, so that we could transfer and students can be able to access the coding exam during an exam in CodeGrade. So what our solution was to use the Lockdown Browser because it can control access to outside environments. I say that, but realize that the Lockdown Browser has some issues that you would generally have to deal with during the exam. And we paired that with our CodeGrade platform, and I'm about to explain how we did all of that. So our combined approach Doesn't give complete exam security. I don't think you can ever do 100% secure in terms of exam, even if you get paper exams, but it does make it difficult enough that students lose the appetite for trying to figure out a way around it. So our implementation and workflow, configure the CodeGrade coding question. I'm going to follow this and show you, demonstrate this exactly. Embed the link into the coding question, right, for your coding to CodeGrade. You deploy the exam, you enable the lockdown browser on the exam, and then you authorize the domains, right? So let me show you exactly what's going on. I'm trying to stay within the 15 minutes I have. So if you can see, hopefully you can. Hopefully everybody can see this. So the first thing I do before any exam, especially at the beginning of the year, is you got to get the students ready for taking a lockdown browser exam, especially with a coding question. So I basically announce the exam. I specify what they need to do. I give them the link to the video for the lockdown browser, the install, because it's got to be a specific install for Delaware State University. And then the critical step for them is to go to the CodeGrade link and actually make sure that they know how to log in directly to CodeGrade. So they have to do this because during the lockdown browser, the credentials are not sent to CodeGrade through the normal LTI link. So once they do this, they will be able to take an exam review. So one of the things I do to make sure that they do all of this is they can only access the review through the lockdown browser. So this gives them a practice on this. The other part of that is I can monitor who's actually completed this step. So the last exam I had, I went in on Sunday. They had an exam on Monday. On Sunday, I sent out on their Discord channel. I only have 5 people that have done this step. If you come in on Monday for the exam and you haven't completed this step, you will not be able to take the exam. You get a 0. Within 1 hour, everybody was on there. So it does do good. So once you complete that step, what you can do next, the first thing I do is I go and create a CodeGrade. Let me see right here. There you go. I create a CodeGrade page. So let me close this down. So you'll see I create a CodeGrade page, content page that is hidden from the students. And in there, I create my actual CodeGrade question. So I'm not going to go through that, but I will say that once you create the CodeGrade question, in there, the one thing you want to do, and I think Yuri's already mentioned it, he's going to talk about it, is to include a password. So I include a password in here. The reason for this is I don't want students to be able to tell some of their peers that are really good coders, hey, when I get into the exam, go ahead and log into my CodeGrade. Here's the credentials and do the exam for me, the coding question, right? So this prevents it. And once they're in the lockdown browser, we give them the password. It's hard for them to communicate that outside of the browser. So once that is completed, let me see, I'm going to go back into that. Once that's completed, what you have to do is also remember that you need to get the link to the CodeGrade question. So in doing this, the easiest way to do that is in your CodeGrade question, when you go to that link, what you'll do is you'll use the open this page in new tab, and that will actually give you the link, so you can copy the link. The reason you need the link is you need to embed that in your exam. And so you'll need to have that link so the students can click into it. Okay, so once all of that is done, what we're going to do is we're going to get back to the exam. We're going to create the exam. So in creating the exam, you go through the normal way of creating your exam. So here I have an exam already created. I've already turned on the lockdown browser, but I'll explain how to do that as well. So in here, I have my concept questions, and then I have my coding question. I'm going to quickly go through how you can set up your coding question. The beauty of this is that if for them to access the coding question on CodeGrade, they have to be in the lockdown browser in the exam to click on the actual coding question. Okay, and so all you have to do is just create. I usually make it a file response question, and so what you'll do is you'll create. It's hard to do it when it's this big. Okay, so you can create, let me just go through this way. You create the question, and I usually use the CodeGrade icon just so that the students are aware that this is a coding question. You don't have to do that. You can create a normal link in here. And what you would do is you will copy the URL I just copied from CodeGrade and create the link right here. So I can create that link and then just copy that URL right here, right? Which is the same URL I just did. Okay, once you have the link, the students will be able to click on it. The most important part of that is to make sure that you open the link in a new window. You do not want to open the link in the same window while the test is going on the lockdown browser. It causes a lot of issues, and then it allows the students to continue working on the test while they have the coding question up on another tab. I also place the password in here. You can put it up on the board. And I don't put the explanation of what they need to do in the actual coding question. And on CodeGrade, I put it in a PDF and they can click on that. When they click on that, it opens up also in a new tab, so they have that available as well. So once you have the coding question set up in your exam, what you can then do is you can deploy the exam. So you deploy the exam the normal way you would deploy the exam in your LMS. And this is maybe specific to Blackboard. I don't know how that would work on Canvas, although we are moving to Canvas, so I'm going to have to re-explore all of this. But as you know, you place your exam in on the content page. That's how I do it. And then I go to the Respondus lockdown browser page. And what you'll see here is I've already exited the exam once, so you'll see this number right here, and you can do review early exits. So if students exit the exam, you can see who exited at what time. I often tell my students if they exit the exam for any reason, sometimes that happens, they need to let me know immediately. I will mark that the time that they did exit the exam, so I know that they've informed me. If they don't inform me, they get a 0 on the exam. So under the Respondus, I go to settings. I say require lockdown browser. I'm doing a live proctoring, which is why you can see the actual screen so every time we exit out. So I'm going to show you what it looks like from the student view in the lockdown browser. And then under advanced settings, this is what you need. You need all these URLs that you'll get from CodeGrade. And we put those in here so that they can access the CodeGrade website from the lockdown browser. So this is this. And so once you have that, and you enable and you click save, CodeGrade will add the requires Respondus lockdown browser and everything that has to happen. So once you have this exam, you're ready to go. So when you turn it on, everything starts. I'm going to show you what it looks like from the standpoint of the student. So I'm going to unshare here. Great. So this is my laptop that you're seeing right now, and it's the same course I was in. So this is me as an instructor. I'm going to enter as a student. So I'm going to go to student view. And then I can access the exam from here. So I'm going to access the exam. Sorry, give me a second. I didn't realize that.
No worries. It's a demo virus.
That would happen. I knew something was going to happen. So give me a second. I'll clear that out.
While we wait for that,
Yeah.
in Canvas, it's basically a similar workflow. You would also sort of set it up like this.
Okay, let's try that again. Okay, so I've been given an exam. And this access code is just for the live proctoring, so it wouldn't normally be part of it. Okay, so here's the exam. I'm in the exam. I have 59 minutes and 58 seconds remaining. I can scroll down to the coding question from here. And now if I click on the exam one coding question, it opens up in another tab. You can see that. And so the coding question starts up. And if I go, I'm going to go into the student view at this point. So it actually let me in as me, which is interesting. But in here, I'm using the password. So I'm going to put that in. And now I'm in the coding exam. And now I can switch between the exam, the code part of the exam, and I can open up my PDF. It'll open up also in a new page. And so I have the coding question right here. They have to read through that and do their exam, the coding question. Now, that does not, so if the student actually, the coding part is separate from the this actual exam. So students can finish the exams, they can submit, and then they can go back and get out of the lockdown browser and then, finish the coding exam outside the lockdown browser. But what I insist on is that I will only grade the part of the submission, the hand-in, that coincides with when they clicked on submit on the actual exam. So anything after that is not accepted. So that's one way to prevent this. I've tried all kinds of different ways in terms of trying to prevent cheating, and I think we've done a pretty good job with that, given the results that we have. Let me just switch a little bit back again to my screen. So with that, I'm just going to finish up quickly. So there are still vulnerabilities. We have issues. I don't know if you've given a respondus exam, but I tell the students it's almost as stressful for me to give the exam as for them to take the exam, because there's always technical issues that can happen, and you have to kind of quickly pivot when these things do happen. The other thing is there are also the physical environment. So you'll never be able to completely get away from, students trying hard to kind of get around the security you put in place. So even we've had cases where students, take pictures of their paper exam, submit it to an LLM, and then get the answer and put it down with the instructor, observing. So there's some students that are really good at this. And, it's possible for them to access the CodeGrade from outside the lockdown browser. So if it's, if they get out of the lockdown browser for some reason and let you know, but they sent the code, say, to somebody outside, that's a possibility. One way to mitigate that, I haven't done that, is to actually change the password after everybody. I tell all the students they have to click on the CodeGrade, put in the passwords, and once they're in there, I change the password. And this way, if somebody still needs access, I can give that access directly to the student. So there's ways around all of this and securing it. So what we found is that we have a much more accurate assessment of our students' coding ability now. The assignments is another different thing. We address the assignments with giving them in class examples of how they can use AI to help them with their assignments, to help them learn not to cheat. I've even done things with projects where we're doing design thinking, and they're using Scrum, and they're building their user stories, and how they can use these to actually take the user stories, put them in the AI, and get better user stories. And they learn from that, they improve. So we've tried to address it in that sense. So we have I think, a comprehensive exam secure way of doing that. I'm not going to claim that students can't cheat, they can still do that, but we've made it more difficult for them to do that. And we've definitely restored some academic integrity into the process. So with that, I thank everybody for listening. I hope I stayed within my 15 minutes.
It's all good. You can take as long as you want. Thank you so much. I think it's super helpful to sort of see this workflow in action, because what you also see here is it's of course there are some steps here. Unfortunately, tools like Lockdown Browser, they don't allow us to directly integrate with them. So we have to sort of figure out these workflows that make it work. So I can also imagine there may be some questions and things like that about this workflow. So maybe we can do a round of questions first, and then to continue. Jeffrey.
Yes, you mentioned students need to be able to log in to CodeGrade before the exam. During the exam, are they prompted when they click on the question, or how does that work? Yeah, so when they click on the question, it actually takes them to they have to actually first to the list of all the schools, and then they type in Delaware State University, and then the prompt, their login prompt comes up, and so they have to log into that. So, and if you do stuff beforehand where they go in and they do all of this, they know exactly what to do in the exam.
Yeah. So another maybe to sort of sorry for interrupting. To further highlight on this, we do also have an SSO integration available. So that's sort of probably a good next step, is to do that, and then they can just use their university credentials to log in as well, to sort of further make this process a bit easier. But otherwise, you have to do some kind of passwords. Jeffrey, does that answer your question? Yes, thank you. All right, question from David in the chat. How many students in the class taking the exam at the same time? And then there are a few manual checks you're making, such as comparing the submission time, which might not scale. So I guess that's a good point.
Okay, so usually for me, it's about 25 students in the class. We don't tend to have more than that in the class. I've taught a class of 60, and I've done this before, but I've had to have senior students helping out with that. So we don't try not to do that at all. And what was the second question?
That was basically, so you have to do some manual checks, of course. Maybe you can highlight. So you mentioned that you sort of compare the time that they left the Lockdown Browser to the time they handed in. But they said that's something you probably do after the fact, right?
Yeah, definitely. But then you don't give them the credit. So they got 100%, but they submitted after they submitted the exam. Then they don't get that 100%. They get whatever the hand-in was before that time. And so, it just prevents them from trying to do stuff like that. Sometimes what you want are the things in place to help, be able to, if you suspect cheating, to come down after the fact and have evidence that there was cheating, right? So another thing I might recommend is that, and I don't know if that's available in CodeGrade, is to track where the hand-ins are coming from, what IP, because then you can figure out whether that's happening. I know you have an IP check, but it's possible for this, another student sitting in my lounge right here and be on the Wi-Fi and come in from the same IP. So it'd be interesting to know whether the student is submitting from the correct IP address.
Yeah, so that's a good point. There's of course an IP access restriction as well that you can enforce, so then they cannot actually enter the exam assignment without being on that IP. But then again, if they're on exactly the same Wi-Fi, that might become a bit more difficult. All right. Any other questions about this workflow? Great. Okay, then let me just highlight sort of a couple more things in more detail, including that IP workflow. So of course, from exams, there's basically a couple different types we see. We have in-person exams, remote exams, and then exams that are just one CodeGrade assignments, but also exams that might need multiple CodeGrade assignments. either way, for in-person exams, yeah, we do recommend under access. We do have an IP restriction available where you can limit these ranges. So if I were to just put something in and then go into the student view for this assignment, then you cannot actually access it. And then if I remove this and now indeed set a password like CodeGrade, you will see the same thing. So now I can access it because the IP lock is restricted, but now I need the password lock. And then indeed through in person or through like a lockdown browser system or something like that, you can distribute the password. Another thing you might want to do, and that we see some universities do, is instead of having an exam assignment, instead have an entire sort of course shell available as the assignment and let students log into that. So that's another possibility, and you can sort of have multiple assignments within it. And then you are able to, let me leave the student view. Use also things like you can archive the course after the exam, and then that will make it so students cannot access the course anymore. So those are some other workarounds you can think about as well. And then again, as I mentioned, we do have an SSO integration as well. So if you do want students to sort of log in without the LMS, we can do an SSO integration, and then they can have a separate account that's only used for exams through which they can log in. So those are some other workflows you can think about. But again, as I said in the beginning of the webinar, we've made a couple of improvements now, but we also realize that there's many different workflows and things you are dealing with. So it would also be great to know to get additional feedback what your workflow is and sort of how you are doing exams. With that, do we have sort of any other questions around exams and exam workflows? Well, the good news is that, Marwan, your presentation was very clear then. And I think also important to highlight is, of course, Marwan is using Lockdown Browser with CodeGrade because that's the tool they have for that. But other tools, proctoring tools, they tend to work very similarly. Also, how they integrate with an LMS. So if you use like Proctorio or things like that, or HonorLock, different kind of systems, the workflow will be very similar. So that's also good to highlight. Let me then go to the slide again, or to give a quick recap. So again, the overview is you can either use an exam assignment like Marwan uses, combining with a proctoring lockdown browser kind of tool, where you set password access restriction in CodeGrade, or that other workflow is using an exam course. And for that, we can create these for you. These sort of are not connected with the LMS anymore. Following this webinar and following the workflow, Marwan will also publish a blog post sort of highlighting the exact workflow, including the URLs you also have to do to make CodeGrade available. And then basically, with those sort of 5 steps that Marwan highlighted, you can set these up yourself as well. So if there are no further questions, then we can wrap this up. If there are any questions, speak now or chat. Great. Well then, thank you so much, Marwan, for showing your workflow in a quick manner.
That was a little quick. Thank you, though.
All right. Thank you so much, everyone.